Hello, hello. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to do this hummingbird. We did this hummingbird at the our military spouses night. They loved it. It was a smaller hummingbird with a large flower so that you could see the size, the small size of the hummingbird. But since they enjoyed it so much, we decided to come back with a larger one. And so we're doing the focusing on the hummingbird. We're zooming in on the hummingbird and making the flowers kind of background. So for this, we always approach our background first. And we're going to do the background, maybe some greens, toned down. I don't know. We're trying to do a little differently and maybe put some splashes of color in it to look like flowers in the background. We're going to do that. I'm using a tray that I've already used before because I have the paints on there. I always lay my paints out in the same order. I suggest that you do the same. I have a small amount of water and a couple of little paint brushes. These are not professional brushes, and I'm not using professional grade stuff because I want you to see that you're able to do this and do a nice painting if you would like to. Allow that artist within you to just flourish and create things for your wall. So we're going to do the background first. And with our backgrounds, I'm going to use a larger brush and we're going to water it down because that's what we do. We water the background down so that it doesn't overpower our focal point, which is our hummingbird. So I wet my brush in the water and I'm just going to put a little water here and there. The focal point is the bird. And I have a flower here that's in focus and part of a flower down here on this bottom that will be in focus. Not much. We want the bird to be in focus. So we do our background first. We're going to use the green. So I have this weird looking green here. And I'm going to put it there and up here. Because I want it to look like the bird came down into the foliage. That's what I'm going to do. And we have a blue here and we have a yellow there. So I'm going to take a little of that blue and put it in there, and it's especially down here on the bottom, and it's going to cause that green down there to be a darker green. I know it's more on the blue side. Don't worry. We're painting. And when we paint, we add our little stuff to our paint. See, so we can add a little bit more green in there. And that blue goes greener. We don't want one solid color. And I have not decided what color the hummingbird is. But remember, we don't want that halo. Let me show you that halo around the hummingbird. See that right here? All of that around the edge of the hummingbird and the background. That will make a halo. We don't want that. So I'm going to put a little yellow up here at the top. And I'm going to add a little yellow in here. Because remember, this is greenery. This is foliage. It's not all one color. We come right up to the edge of the bird. And in fact, we will paint over the edge of the bird. But because your colors are watered down, it won't be so bad. You'll still be able to see the color. See, that's still a little bright green. That bright green is a little too bright for me. Let's come in here. It's a flower petal and then it's stamen up here. All this on the side will be foliage. And it's such a vibrant green. Until it will be artificial. It won't look real. And I'm just going to put greenery all in here. Mm-hmm. Put a little of this yellow in here. Put a little of this, too much blue. Put a little of this down here. Yellow and blue is going to make green. And this up here is a little too bright. Now, if I wanted to, I could have painted that background cerulean blue up here at the top. And then came back with the green on top of that. Just rinsing off the brush a little bit. But as it seems, it looks darker down here, which means it's getting a little thick. So let's take a small brush with a little bit of cerulean blue. And all it does is makes it look like the sky is peeking out here and there. It is a lot of color to me on that top. So I'm going to blot it. And it tones it down. It takes it away. I need a few pieces of that blue here and there on the sides just to make it look the same. Just blotting it off. Don't need that much. Don't need that much color at all. Remember, I want this bird to be the most vibrant, colorful thing on this painting. And I'm even twisting the paper towel a little when I do that. And as you can see, oops, I'm dirtying up the feathers. Oops. It's quite all right. Even when it comes to the flowers, remember, it's okay. We want it to harmonize. You don't want to overthink. I didn't put any down there. One thing about it, when you are constantly trying to get things a certain way, you stress out, you overthink it. So I'm going to add a little blue to that because that's what was down there. And I need some water. You overthink it, you stress out, and you can't quite get it like you want it. And that's not what you want to do. When you're painting, you want to enjoy the entire process. So it's still wet, somewhat wet, not quite dry. So you see how it's erasing some of the color off of there? That's one thing about acrylic paints. If it hasn't quite dried yet, you can put the some water to it and wet it down and sort of erase. So now I'm going to go back in, not too heavy, but do you see what it did? Look at that. It was solid. It's not solid anymore. I'm going to take some out up in here too, some up in here. What it's doing, it's causing it to look like layers and layers of foliage. So when you look in the distance and you see greenery, leaves and off trees and shrubs and flowers, you see layers and layers. There, you don't see one solid color. There. Put some of that in there on the bird too. Now look how interesting that looks. This looks a whole lot more interesting than what it looked like when I first painted it. It was too much paint. It was solid. And so I can still see a line going through here. So this is what I'm going to do. Get a little yellow, see if it'll help. Create that. See how I just pull those lines as if it was layers of shrubbery back there. And then I'm going to come in again and blot, lightly blot. I don't want it too dark, but I want the pencil lines to disappear. That yellow is so bright. Just lightly blot it. So it looks like so much is going on behind there, which is fine. That'll work. I'm satisfied. I can live with that. So there's a piece of green foliage over here somewhere. Sometimes I prefer to just make my own green. And I need it to stand out from what was already on the background. There we have it. I'm going to put a little up here too. Not much. Just so it's uniform. That's all I'm doing. Just making it uniform so it's not just in the one place. You see it up there too. I could put just a little bit down here. And that's enough of that. I'm going to use orange. For this flower. And of course, Color Harmony was blown out of the water just now. Because I didn't put orange anywhere else on here. Another way that I cheat when it comes to color harmony is I'll use, you've seen some of the paintings where I used cellophane. I think that's what it's called, plastic wrap, any kind of plastic, a plastic bag, ball it up, and then just use your primary colors everywhere on the canvas for the background. And when they overlap, they will give you these primary colors, of course, and you will also have your secondary colors, and you may even get some tertiary colors. Oh, it depends on what you're doing. And I did not draw anything on the sides of these, so I have nothing really there to go by. I'm just adding the paint there. And now I'm going to add some white. The paint is still wet. So I'm going up and over. If you notice, I'm going up and over the humps, because that's the part that will be lighter. And then I'm going here and there. On the rest of the petal. Now, what did I just do? I added the white, and I don't want it to just look like white because it's sitting on top of the orange and it hasn't blended yet. So I'm going to take a little over here and I'm going to blend it. And I'm going to take, no, it's going to say I'm going to take a little of that red. I didn't want much red because remember, red will turn it pink. So I'm just adding a little here and there. So it'll look different. So what I don't want is I don't want it white. That's why I went back with that to make it look sort of a peach color. I really don't want it to look white. So let's see if we can take some of this red. I probably should have just took some blue. But I'm going to take some of this red. See that? And just put it in there. I don't want it to blend, so I'm not putting too much. But just swiping it in there to give it a variation of color. Just enough, not much. Just enough to make it look different. And I'm just tapping in a little of this red here and there. For color harmony's sake. I would love to be able to do like an iridescent color for these, and I can't do that. So the eyeball, of course, is black, and we do that last. I was going to go in and do it, but we do that last. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take some of this black and put it here. I'm going to take some of this blue, and it's going to give me the black and the blue. This is ultramarine blue. That black and that blue is going to give me a Prussian blue color, really rich dark blue. And I'm going to come under here. That's his feather there. His wing. Sorry about that. That's his wing there. That's his beak. I'm going to come under here, and I'm going to come under with that blue. Let's see how we make that work. And now, see if I can get me some. That's that green. And see how it's weird. Let's see if you can see that. I put that green up top and then I put the yellow on it. See how it blended it for me? Weird. Following the shape of his head. I'm going to leave that just like that. Wipe that off. Rinse and wipe that off. I'm going to go with his underbelly as the yellow. And I'm hoping that whatever paints are still wet, I'm going to swipe into it with this yellow, and it's going to dirty it up on the edge. See right there? It dirtied up the edge of it from that. That's what you want. You can't, some of these blends you can't get without going over and over and over. Sometimes it gets so tedious. So I put the really bright color underneath his belly. He's got the green up there, the blue up there. This is a little purple and blue. I think I want to put a little red in there. But I don't want to mix together. See how it's doing it? Since I'm stroking it, it's not really mixing them together, which is really nice up there. That's so much better. I like the way that looks. Let's do a little back here on his tail. We're going to give him like an orangey blue feet. We'll see how that works out. Let's see. So orange and blue makes a brown. We're going to paint his feet up here. There we have it. We're going to leave that like that. We're going to take it to his beak, but we're going to take it to the underside. So don't be afraid to turn your canvas. I should have said that before. we're going to do the underside of the beak and clean that off. Because that is a little wider. I went all on that. I went all outside the line. So remember, it's acrylic paint, so you can clean that up. His beak is not that wide. See that? So I'm getting that paint out from down here. And now I'm going to come up top with some yellow. It's not as bright as I would like it. So I'm going to come over it with a little white and see what that does. I want the top of his beak to be lighter, and I'm just going to put a little on his feet down there. I'm going to come back with a little bit more yellow. I'm using just the very paint on the tip of the brush. And the paint is still wet on that beak. That's the beauty of painting without allowing the paint to completely dry, because you can get those blends that you would work so hard trying to get and not achieve. So I'm going to put a little bit more yellow up here. You can see the streaks in the paint because I don't have enough layers of paint on here. And I came over that with that yellow. And I used this little green I had mixed up over here. So I'm going to come back with a little bit more green. I'm going to bring it on the back of his head here. And I'm just lightly stroking it so it'll give a little translucent mixture. I want that to be a blend of greens and yellows. And then we still have this section back here that we need to paint. I think, because this is that color I mixed up, I'm going to come right here on this edge and get me a little brighter purple. I'm going to need these wings. To be painted, and we're going to need those wings to stand out also. So I think I would like to have a little green stand out on that to see if it gives it like an iridescent color. That's all I'm doing that for. Put some more green down near the bottom of the neck because this is where the shadows would be. Shadows are always going to be on the underside and down low. This yellow is really very bright. So I'm just putting a little green underneath there and swipe it with my finger. I'm using just the tip of the brush, just swiping lightly like that. So it toned it down some. Now for these wings, it's not enough definition in between this wing and his body. But for his wings, I really want them to look translucent. So I'm going to see if me putting a little white paint on them here. Let's do what I said before. Let's come here